Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here, joined by my good friend and esteemed colleague, Jeff Howe, for another edition of Football Theory here on Texas Football. Thank you guys for joining us. And on this episode, we'll talk about what we expect to see from the Longhorns carrying over, or maybe some things that we didn't see in game one against Ohio State that we'd like to see in their game coming up against San Jose State this weekend. We'll get into that and more. Before we do, let's thank one of our sponsors for Football Theory, and really appreciative of our friends over at Duck Camp. Duck Camp makes gear for folks who live for being out there, whether that's in a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres for a Saturday kickoff. Born right here in Austin, Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. From sun protection shirts that keep you cool during those early season scorchers to their iconic game series hats that feel like instant classics, Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, and every season in between. Get out there and stay out there and hook them from our friends over at Duck Camp. Shop Duck Camp at duckcamp.com. That's duckcamp.com. Really appreciate them for being a member of the On Texas Football family and for sponsoring Football Theory. We appreciate our friends over at Duck Camp. All right, Jeff, let's dive right into it and talk about some of the things maybe that may carry over to the second game of the season for the Longhorns, and maybe some things that we didn't see in game one that maybe something we might want to see more of in game two, or something we didn't see at all that we want to see more of. So we'll get into that coming up. But let's start out on offense, of course, because that's where all the headlines are, especially kind of starting with Arch Manning. I'll tell you one thing that I observed that I thought, we might want to see more of. And I was actually kind of inspired. Kurt Warner put out a tweet talking about getting quarterbacks in a rhythm and getting them into a groove. If you go look at the straight drop back for Arch, just the straight drop backs, no play action pass, no RPOs, he actually was much better in straight drop back situations than he was with any amplifiers like RPO or play action pass, strangely enough. Over 8 yards per attempt, over 61% completion percentage, had the one touchdown, one reception, and had some of his biggest plays in just straight drop back situation. Actually, all of his best throws, in my opinion, came on straight drop back situations. It's the Parker Livingstone comeback route, the Parker Livingstone touchdown, the 28-yarder to Wingo, and that 30-yarder to Jack Hendricks. So I do wonder if, and I know they've kind of abandoned a lot of the RPO and play action when they were down 14-0 and kind of got in 2-minute mode. They might have found something in 2-minute mode with Arch and the straight drop back game. Seemed like things slowed down for him when he doesn't have to really worry about turning his back to the defense or worry about his footwork and the sleight of hand with the RPO game. If he's just straight drop back, seems like he was a lot more comfortable. I think that's something they should incorporate more, along with the quick game straight drop back. Not something you see a lot in college, but I'm telling you, it's open and it's there, and he's got the arm strength for it.
Yeah, part of me wonders too, Rod, do they go maybe more from the shotgun than from under center just to get the ball to Arch quick and just expedite the process without having to speed his brain up? You're just naturally speeding up the process of getting him the football and letting him get it out. One thing that I do think is going to be interesting this week, and it's in the realm of the RPO play action stuff. I think they may have to utilize more quarterback run game than they initially thought for two reasons. One, I think because Arch's legs could be something that not only jumpstart him, but jumpstart this offense, number one. And number two, I don't know that opponents are really just going to outright respect Arch's running ability unless they have a reason to. Therefore, it's not going to make your RPO game or your play action game as effective as it could be if they don't respect the threat of the quarterback run. So I think they may have to do that a little bit more. The other challenge this week too, Rod, and I don't, I think this goes into what type of personnel do you see? And again, we talked about how do you beat pressure? Do you amplify protection, or do you want to get more guys out in the passing routes? San Jose State, I think, is going to dial it up. Derek Odom's a guy that his defense can kind of morph into whatever it'll be. He's been a 3-down guy. He's been a 4-down guy. He's been a base 40 personnel. He's been a base nickel. And they're going to probably blitz quite a bit. I mean, they were one of the best defenses in the country last year at forcing turnovers. And in games like this, Rod, when you're outmanned, you probably want to dial up the pressure, because if you're San Jose State, And if you just sit back and play static defense against Texas, you're going to get eaten alive. So you're going to have to take some chances. So I think not just how Arch sees it, but also communication with the offensive line. I think it's going to be a really good test because I think you're going to see some stunts and some pressures, maybe some simulated pressures that you didn't see from Ohio State. And to that point, Rod, I know you've talked a lot about, hey, what kind of personnel do we want to see this week? Do we want to see more 12? Do we want to see more two-back stuff? That's something I'm interested to see from Sark. Do you kind of double down and help with protection, or do you just want to get more guys out in the passing routes?
Yeah, I think ultimately for Texas, they got to figure out something about 12 personnel. I don't think they're dynamic enough in 12 personnel in the passing game. Now, could just been the passing game itself stalled out for 3 quarters versus Ohio State. That's Ohio State's defense, so that could be an outlier. But just watching it, rewatching it, and watching it again, I mean, Texas was, I think, only had 2 completions that I actually counted in 12 personnel. Which is not good. I know when they get down, Sark, he wants to go 11 personnel. That's his obviously more dynamic personnel set. But I think you got to think about maybe incorporating more Jordan Washington potentially in that 12 personnel. I know Nick Townsend is a baby and probably doesn't have the armor or the body for it just yet. But, you know, I do think you need something else other than Jack Andrews because he's great. Yeah. But if you were running 12 personnel like Sark does 35% of the time on average, I think in that game you were probably a little under 30% because you got down so much. But still, if you're not going to get what you need in terms of diversity and variety from your 12 personnel, which is Sark's second favorite personnel grouping, I think 21 personnel should increase. And everybody's heard me talk about it, so I will not bore you with the stats and the metrics and the analytics, but just trust me on it. It's easily your most explosive, your most effective and efficient personnel grouping, even more so than 11 or 12 or any other personnel grouping since Sark has been here. And the pony package works. And now you got Cedric Baxter, who's almost completely healthy, and a Trey Wisner. You know, not that I want to see it or need to see it in this game, but if you're not going to juice up your 12 personnel, then break out the pony. And you didn't see it at all versus Ohio State. So maybe that's something we get a little bit more of.
The thing that intrigues me too about the pony package, and Rod, you know me, I've said this for years, like when you get into diverse personnel groupings, it really boils down to, okay, what makes you more effective as an offense? Is it having one of Trey Wisner or CJ Baxter on the field, or having Spencer Shannon on the field? Now, I feel like this staff, based on the snap totals we saw in the Ohio State game, I think they trust Spencer Shannon as a blocker, which is fine. But if you're talking about opening things up and being dynamic and really kickstarting this thing, I think it comes down to, what do you trust more? Do you trust one of those 2 backs to be a blocker? Do you trust Jordan Washington as a blocker, or do you trust Spencer Shannon as a pass receiver? That's what's going to open it up. And I think the fact you can go pony now with CJ Baxter healthy, because, Rod, one thing that made the pony package really, if you have Bijan can run in any personnel grouping, any system, it doesn't matter. It was Roschon Johnson's willingness and his unselfishness as a blocker that helped make that pony package so effective, because Rojo, we know he was willing to sacrifice his body, and he was a dang good blocker. I feel like CJ Baxter, not just in pass protection, but if you want him to block in the run game, not saying turn him into a fullback, but on the occasion where you need him to maybe block that split flow look, block back against the formation, I feel like he can do that, Rod. So I think right now, I'm with you. I think if you want to talk about explosive plays, just moving the football, period, 2-back personnel might be how you have to go about it.
Yep, it's a good breakdown there. And since we're on offense, before we move to defense, I wouldn't be shocked to see Arch Manning, even in this game, throw it 25 to 30 times, just because he needs the reps, and the passing game needs the reps right now too. But they also love where the running game is going. Ran a lot of gap power schemes, probably more so, a lot of inside run game, probably more so than they've run in a while. Sark talked about them trying to get back to physicality in the run game. I expect that to continue as well, especially with Cedric Baxter. That's kind of it's compatible with his skill set and his strong suit as a runner, is with those gap power schemes that can get downhill.
No doubt.
But one other thing, I did love the deep shots from Arch. I will say everybody was right about that. He loves the deep ball. And by the way, his deep ball was great. He was 3 of 6 on deep passes. That's a higher percentage than, honestly, that Quinn has had in a long time in a big game. And that was him really being pretty much bad for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And still ended up with a really high rate of completions on deep passes.
Yeah. I mean, if you're right around 50%, you're doing really well. I mean, you think about, it it was a high percentage, but they weren't like real big shots down the field. Like if you think back to the 2018 Texas offense, that was the offense. They didn't have a play, I think, over 50 yards from scrimmage all year. But Sam Ehlinger statistically was one of the best quarterbacks in the country on throws of 20 plus down the field, because there were times where, hey, if it's Colin Johnson or Lil Jordan Humphrey on a 50-50 ball, it's more like an 80-20 ball if you put it in the right place with those guys. So, yeah, I love it. Doesn't have to be, the 60-70 yard bomb for you to have a good passing game, number one. And number two, if you're right around 50%, you're doing really, really well for yourself on deep balls. I'll also say this too on the deep shots, Rod. One thing I do want to see more of, and I saw this, you saw the Ryan Wingo deep ball where Matthews made the recovery and got the PBU, got that deep crosser. I got to see the Texas wide receivers. And this is, I'm nitpicking right now, but even Sark has mentioned this. The Texas wide receivers on deep shots have to do a better job of demanding pass interference calls to their benefit. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to get up and make the flag motion. You got to act like you got mugged. You've got to basically be more. And I'm not saying you got to flop or whatever, but you just got to be more animated and demand that the flag be thrown. Because more often than not, Rod, we see the officials keep their flag in the pocket. Then if the receiver gets up and he's making flag motion, I said this the other day. I had a baseball coach one time tell me, hey, if it's a bang-bang play at second base and you're the second baseman or the shortstop, man, get up and put that ball in the umpire's face, because more often than not, if you just start shaking that ball in front of their face, even if he was safe, he's more likely to just get fired up and call the guy out. And if you started seeing it, like, wow, that actually really does happen. So, yeah, just demand it and start seeing what happens. But I got to have the Texas wide receivers do a better job of demanding DPI down the field.
I think you're right about that, though, Jeff. You can influence the rest. Even if it's not that particular call, a later call. Like, hey, man, this guy's been mugging me all damn day. You can go there. One thing, real quick, so we'll talk about the receivers and then we'll move to defense. A lot of people have complained about them not creating enough separation down the field. Maybe that's a valid point or not. I think they did get schemed open and there was separation down the field. But if you want to try to manufacture more separation, and I've talked about this, and Sark used a lot of bunch formations and clusters of receivers, whether it be tight twins or a triangle twins or the trident. He uses a lot of closely clustered groups of receivers, targets to bunch for arch. And this free gives your receivers a free release. Usually, sometimes they jam the point man, which is what they did to Parker Livingston on his touchdown, but he fought through it and still made a hell of a catch. Usually you get a free release because DBs, they don't want to get picked or rubbed, so they give you a free release and they give you space. Mm-hmm. And also it cleans up the read for the quarterback a little bit too, and it forces DBs to have to communicate, which ultimately leads to miscommunication when we're passing off those switch routes and passing off those routes down the field with those late switch releases. Mm-hmm. So targets a bunch. He was only 4 of 7, but the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but is 42% explosive play rate. So 3 of those were explosive plays. He had a 57% first down touchdown rate on those, and those 3 incompletions were all wide open. They just bad throws. Like, he should have been 7 of 7 on targets to bunch formation. So I think more targets to bunch would help your receivers too. So maybe switch a lot of your primary reads or your first read in your progression to the bunch instead of to the single receiver side or to the side with the spread sets. Just throwing it out there. All right. Anything you want to end on offense before we throw it to defense real quick?
No, just keep trying to perfect your gap power schemes. I thought their pin pull stuff against Ohio State was really, really good. And just keep working at it. Hopefully by the time you get to that Florida game, you're proficient, highly proficient running pin pull stuff.
I thought they're pulling the center more than they have, like, even with Jake Majors.
Yeah.
The center a lot in that game.
And I'll give Cole Hudson a game ball, because there's nothing I appreciate more, almost nothing I appreciate more than the pulling center. That is, I don't think people realize how insanely hard it is to be a pulling center. So to the captain, Cole Hudson.
I agree, bro. I'm thinking about, like, man, you got to be extremely athletic as a center to pull. And he did it. He did it a ton with him against a team like Ohio State too. You got to be confident that he's going to have the athleticism to get to the point where his man mark or landmark and they did trust him. So I'm with you on that, man. Give him some props. All right, shift the defense real quick. This will we won't take as long as the offense, but I do expect against San Jose State, a team that wants to throw it, they call their offense the spread and shred, is basically if the air raid and the run and shoot had a baby, is how it's been described. I expect to see Texas run a lot more NASCAR. Now, they didn't run as much as Ohio State because Ohio State ran a lot of 12 and ran the ball a ton. But the NASCAR package, I think you can see a lot. And it's interesting. I've been looking at I looked at the game again, looked at the defensive snaps. And your NASCAR personnel is kind of interesting. To your point, Jeff, I'll give you props. You've been saying Anthony Smith is probably your answer at linebacker at NASCAR. He is the linebacker that got the most reps in that NASCAR package. We talked about it's going to be Burke that bumped inside like Barron Sorrell did last year to the D tackle position. That is certainly has been the case. I'm a little surprised at the other D tackle they put in there as their best pass rushing D tackle, Hero Kanu. Got most of those snaps. Sorry, Alex January did a little bit, but it was Hero Kanu most of the time in there. And they also have variations. They ran it with Grayson Littleton at the nickel, and then there was times where they ran it with three safeties, with basically kind of their three safeties. So they have different variations in the back end too. But that's personnel. I expect to see more of it versus a team, Jeff, that wants to throw the ball 45 times.
Not only should we see more of the NASCAR package. This is a game where you should be able to defend the run. You should have no problem defending the run with a very light box. I mean, if you want to go with a 5-man box at times, you should be able to have the personnel to stop the run. So in terms of your linebackers and your secondary, Rod, this is going to be a great week for PK and Johnny Nansen and Dwayne Akina to experiment with, hey, do we want a 3 safety look? Do we want, double nickels? Do we want 4 corners on the field? Like whatever you want.
Yeah.
This is going to be your best opportunity to kind of test drive different looks on the back end.
Yeah, we didn't see dime with 6 DBs, but I imagine it'll just be your 3 starting safeties, which is Derek Williams, Taft, and Jelani McDonald, with your 3 starting corners now, which are Gilbo, Malik Muhammad, and Grayson Littleton. I imagine that's your dime package. Yeah. Right. And then Kobe Black, if you need to throw Kobe Black in there to rotate. I imagine those are your top 7 DBs in your dime package. That's a pretty damn good, pretty impressive dime package if you throw it out there. But they like the NASCAR nickel because I think they like, to your point, they like that Anthony Smith is kind of a hybrid. That these are little DBs, even the way he's not actually a hybrid, but the way they use him and his skill set, he's a guy that's really good against the pass and can be a good blitzer from the second level. So I think that's why, to your point, they had him in there. So
yeah, Rod, I was a Maurice Blackwell fan. I was the president of the Maurice Blackwell fan club. So it shouldn't be a shock to anybody then that I am the president of the Anthony Smith fan club. Now, I just like a guy that, especially against offenses like this, he can be a 3-down player because if he gets one-on-one in coverage with somebody, you're not freaking out about it. Because we talk about all linebackers are liability in coverage to an extent. He's one that I don't think he is. I think depending on the matchup, you actually feel fine about him in man coverage. And we know he can defend the run. And this is a week where you can count on, hey, if you just need to kick him inside to a different shade, have him occupy a different gap to fit the run at the last minute, you could probably do that against a team like San Jose State. And again, you're not freaking out if he's got to be in the box.
You're right about that. He's an exception to the rule. I'm with you. He's kind of an asset for you in pass coverage. One last thing, Texas with their 3 safety look, and even when they have Grayson Littleton in there, man, they're running a lot more of the inverted 3 high look that I thought. So maybe it's an Ohio State team. We'll see if that's something that they're just going to be using a lot more of. And maybe it's Ohio State specific. But I thought they used a lot of it versus Ohio State, probably as much as Ohio State was using it. I saw a lot of their inverted 3 high look. So that's also something else you expect to see on defense versus a really pass-happy team.
It is, and I know, Rod, with the air raid, the run and shoot, you can have a lot of mesh concepts and you got different stuff that could throw you off. But I'd like to think this is a week where, again, that brain trust of PK, Nansen, and Akina, I got a feeling they're going to go into this playing a ton of man coverage because, again, this is a week where you can really work on it. You can really challenge that secondary. Like, hey, yeah, you're gonna need to pass some stuff off, but let's try to be really good playing man coverage.
Yeah, you shouldn't be getting beat by saying that. They got Scudero and they got a couple of guys that can ball out, but for the most part, you should be able to lock these guys down in man coverage. If not, then you got some issues.
And really kind of the next 3 weeks because you're going to face Scotty Walden's offense at UTEP after that. And then we know Phil Longo at times doesn't even call plays. It's just freelance. So, yeah, this is going to be 3 really good tests in a row for the secondary to see how good of man coverage they can play.
All right, good stuff there, Jeff. All right, let's thank our other sponsor of Football Theory before we end today's program. Let's thank our friends over at Advanced Pain Care with a very special message from two very special, legendary lifetime Longhorns.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right, thank you to our sponsors, Advanced Pain Care, and thank you to our friends over at duckcamp.com. And thank you, Jeff, for all your expertise and knowledge. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. He's the real MVP. And thanks to all of you guys out there for watching and for listening. And until next time, for Jeff and for Matthew, I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.